Hi everyone, I'm Matt and welcome back to another Toylytics video where we take a look at the analytical side of toy collecting. In this one we're going to be looking specifically at the Cosmic Legion's Hvalkatar Book 2 Gravenight wave. It's quite a mouthful there. And their performance on the secondary market in the second half of 2023. Let's take a look at the figures that were a part of this wave. And here we can see that there were only 6 figures here, so smaller than the first Hvalkatar Book 1 wave that we discussed before. The pre-orders for the Book 2 wave started in April 2022, extended a little bit beyond that. Direct sales were delivered to customers in early November 2023, and retailers were able to sell around the same time as the Four Horsemen were sending these out to people who had pre-ordered them. So this is a little bit different than what happened with Book 1, where we had that month where the Four Horsemen direct sales were delivered at the end of June, and then retailers had the street date around the end of July. So we had that whole month of July where there was really no other way to get these figures if you wanted them in July other than through the secondary market. In this case, the Horsemen direct figures and the retailer figures basically showed up at the same time, and we're going to see the impact that that had on the secondary market prices, which is generally a good thing for consumers. Now, if you notice on the side here, I've also added the PowerCon debut figures, Operative 83, the Maniface Tribute, and Scourge, the Whiplash Tribute, which were available at PowerCon in August of 2023. These are not part of the Hvalkatar Book 2 wave. They're part of Outpost Zaxius, and in the future I'll be talking about them in the Outpost Zaxius videos, but that's not out yet. And I still wanted to cover them, so I figured that I would put them in here because the Hvalkatar Book 2 wave only has 6 figures in, or 5 figures and a weapons pack in it. So let's take a look at the data itself. Here we go. You can see that not a whole lot of sales from these figures, as you would expect, because most of them were only available for 2 months. Scourge is pretty high, 23. Sligor seems to be the highest number of sales wise. He's sold 25 times, and you can see everything else is in pretty much the teens, other than Novi and Lean, who has sold 11 times, and then we have the weapons pack selling 6 copies. Now here are the sales per month. Again, maybe even a little bit less interesting as far as a graph is concerned than we normally have here with this month-by-month breakdown. But in general, you can kind of see the PowerCon figures here that were selling in August and September. Not a whole lot in October. And then you have the Hvalkatar Book 2 Gravenight figures selling in November. So a lot of figures sold in November. More so for most figures, they were selling in more copies in November, and then tailed off a little bit in December, but some of them kind of held steady. Again, this graph will be a little bit more interesting as we move forward in time. The average price per figure here, not surprising that the 2 PowerCon debut figures, you really only can get these now via the secondary market, so makes sense that those are the highest prices. Scourge was a bigger figure to begin with. 158.50 is his average price. Operative 83, 94.60, and then we have Sligor, or the Tusk Gravekeeper, selling for 62. He has a higher retail price overall, but this is still significantly less than retail. Just looked it up before recording here. $70 for Sligor at the retailers. Vol also a little bit higher. He's that first brute scale figure in the Cosmic Legion's wave, or Cosmic Legion's line, I should say, and actually one of the first brute scale figures in the entire Legion's universe here. His retail price is $65, so he's selling for less than that as well on average. And then we have the 3 sort of standard figures that have a $50 retail price, all selling for either around retail, or in the case of Mbira Jungaira, however that's pronounced, she's selling for less, which isn't too surprising if you've read a lot of posts on the Cabal and other sources. Not generally the most popular figure, and turned out that a lot of copies seem to have quite the pungent smell when you get them. I haven't opened mine yet, so I'm curious to see kind of what condition mine is in, but regardless, taking an undesirable figure in general, or the least desirable figure in the wave, and giving her that attribute that makes her even less desirable in a lot of people's mind is kind of unfortunate. And then finally, we have the weapons pack selling on average for $28.50. Retail price there is $30. So as you can see, a lot of the same sort of behavior for the book 2 figures that we saw for the book 1. They're generally selling at or below the retail price on eBay. And then we have the PowerCon figures that are generally selling higher because eBay or other secondary market sources are the only places to get them right now. So let's look at the individual sales here. First, we'll look at Iasipatian. Again, these are really challenging names here, but regardless, let's just call him Ias. We can be familiar enough with him, just use his first name. So again, we're looking here at the $50 retail price. A few have sold higher than that. Again, only in November and December, of course. And then we've had some other sales that have gone from around $44 to $50. This one here selling a little bit less for $41, but in general, somewhere between $44 and $50. Not real hard to get him for retail or a little bit less right now, which is, again, a pretty common phenomenon for most, if not all, these book 2 figures. Here's Canucks of All. He's, again, the brute scale figure, $65 retail price. A few sold higher than that, just like with Ias's case, but most of them are selling somewhere around $55 to $60. A few sold even less than that, even less than $50 in some cases, but generally around $55 to $60, with then some sales at retail price as well. So again, should be able to get them for retail maybe as low as $57, $55 at best right now. Next is Mbira Jumgara, and again, her retail price is $50. Nobody's paying any more than that on the secondary market. She's been as low. Here's a new one for $35. Here's a loose one also for $35, but then generally between $40 and $46, all of the other sales were. So again, she's selling at a pretty significant discount, around 15 to 20% off. Novian Lean. He is a pretty popular figure, seems to be the mascot for the EuroLegions podcast. Shout out to those guys across the pond. Here's his $50 retail price. Not a whole lot of sales overall. Kind of surprising. Maybe that's to do with not a lot of people are putting him up for sale. But regardless, some people earlier on were able to get him for $55 to just a little bit less than retail price. And then one person paid a little extra, $54, $55. But generally, most people in most recent sales have been right around the retail price. So Novian Lean probably looking at $50, maybe a few dollars less. All right, Operative 83, again, one of the PowerCon debuts. His sales go all the way back to August when people who got him at PowerCon were selling him, and you can see that had a good number of sales here. But what's kind of interesting is very few units were sold after the beginning of October. Only a few have sold recently. So, there could be two stories here. One story could be maybe he's not real popular right now because people kind of forgot about him, and maybe when he comes out in the Outpost Zaxius wave, people are going to be scrambling to try to get them so that if they haven't ordered multiple copies, you can display them with the multiple heads. I think a lot of people were doing the Many Faces approach, going to have 3 of them on the shelf with the different heads. So that's one way to look at it. Another way to look at it is that people are trying to get smart in the secondary market and determining that at this point, right, as of the end of September, beginning of October, that Outpost Axios wave isn't too far away. We're probably going to see that sometime in the spring, maybe early summer. So it's only a few months away right now. Why would I end up paying, $90 plus in a lot of cases, like people have been doing a little bit more recently? Why not just wait for it to go in stock? And the retail price is going to be $50, which is all the way off the scale here. We don't even have that in our graph because none have sold that low. So maybe people are getting a little bit more patient and they're willing to wait a little bit, which I think is the best strategy here. Please do not purchase an operative 83 right now. There's no reason, especially now, right? I could see buying one maybe in August because you knew it was going to be almost a year until he came out and you wanted to check him out and you paid the premium for that early access. That makes at least some degree of sense. But if you're looking at January 2024 and he's going to be coming out somewhere in maybe Q2 of the year, what's the point in, getting him now and not waiting a few months to be able to get him for, maybe half the price that you were going to end up paying at this point on the secondary market? So, could be one of those two or something else, right? Maybe just not a lot of people will put them up for sale now, too. That could be an issue as well. It'll be interesting to keep an eye on him and Scourge as far as how they end up selling once the full Outpost Axios wave has been released. Okay, move on to Sligor. All right, so the Tusk Gravekeeper, a lot of people really like this figure. Comes with a whole lot of parts. He has a $70 retail price. So basically, everybody except this one person here was able to get him at retail or below. So we had a lot of sales at 60. I believe this was the Horseman direct price. I can't remember exactly. I think I bought one or two extras at the Horseman price, and I think it was $60. But regardless, a lot of people earlier in November were selling him for right around $60. But in general, people have been able to get him between 60 and that retail price of 70. You probably can knock a few dollars off by getting him on the secondary market, but probably don't need to expect to spend anything more than retail. All right, last figure here in this video. This is Scourge. He's the bigger figure. He has an $80 retail price, the Whiplash Tribute. And again, $80 is well off the scale here. So we had our PowerCon sales in August, and then a big dry spell from the beginning of September through sort of the end of October, and then a few extra sales in November, but notice no sales in December at all. So again, similar to Operative 83, hard to really tell what's going on here, but in general, most recently, he's been selling for around 140 to 160. Here was one good price. I'll put that in quotes. As far as the secondary market is concerned, 110. That's the best price that he sold for at any point in his release here, in his early release. But again, you should be able to get him for 80 or less in a few months once the Outpost Axios wave gets its full release. And then we'll finish up with a brief discussion of the weapons pack for the Gravenight. $30 retail price, so some people have been paying $30. A few other people paid $25 to $30. So basically, you're looking at retail price, but maybe you can get a few bucks off by buying him, or buying the weapons pack, I should say, not him. Buying the weapons pack on the secondary market. But not a lot of sales overall, so may not have a lot available either. So that is it for our look at the Hvalkatar Book 2 Gravenight wave. Again, only 2 real months of data for these figures other than the PowerCon debut figures, so it's a little bit hard to tell how the market is going to turn out for these figures overall. But at least right now, everybody who wants the Book 2 figures should be able to get them for retail or a little bit less. We'll keep an eye on it moving forward. Hope you enjoyed this video. Please like, subscribe, share, as everybody else says, and I'll keep putting them out. I hope that you join me again for another Toylytics video, and I'll see you again in the next one. Thanks. Take care.